Ah, the 2000s. A time of dial-up internet, baggy jeans, and wondering if your AM crush was ever going to reply. But while the world was trying to figure out how to burn CDs and avoid LimeWire viruses, something magical was happening in the gaming world. This was the decade when games didn't just entertain us, they changed us. You remember it, right? That feeling of firing up your PS2, Xbox, or booting up your chunky PC tower that sounded like a jet engine. Games weren't just pixels on a screen back then. They were your second home, your after-school ritual, your Friday night plans. Whether you were stealing cars in Liberty City, fragging friends on LAN and Counter-Strike, or throwing down in Super Smash Bros., the 2000s hit differently. This was the golden era where experimentation collided with innovation, where a quiet balding man named Gordon Freeman could be a global icon, where we met an Italian assassin who climbed churches and charmed everyone's nonna. And don't even get me started on the first time we all heard, "Would you kindly?" So today we're diving deep into 20 games that defined the 2000s. Not just the best-selling or the most hyped, but the ones that made a dent in the culture. The ones that had you up at 3 a.m. still saying, just one more level. Whether you're here for the nostalgia trip or to see what the fuss was all about, grab your old controller, blow the dust off that memory card, and let's take a walk down the polygon-paved road of the 2000s. Ready? Let's boot it up. Long before Skyrim had us shouting at dragons, Morrowind was the open-world RPG that blew our minds. In 2002, Bethesda dropped us on the alien island of Vardenfell, handed us a letter of introduction, and basically said, go make your own adventure. Remember stepping off the boat in Seyda with nothing but a crappy iron dagger and an empty journal? Morrowind felt huge and mysterious. There were giant mushroom trees, bizarre creatures like silt striders and nyx hounds, and rich lore to uncover. No quest markers, no hand-holding. You actually had to read directions and explore. Sure, sometimes you got lost or accidentally angered a godlike ordinator and paid the price, but that was part of the charm. Morrowind proved that console players, it released on Xbox too, would embrace a deep, complex RPG if given the chance. Its influence set the stage for Oblivion and Skyrim, and by extension, almost every open-world RPG that followed. It popularized the idea that you could ignore the main quest for 100 hours and just do your own thing. Join guilds, become a vampire, or simply hoard pillows in your house. Yes, we did that. Modders also flocked to Morrowind, extending its life with fan-made content and improvements. The game's legacy is a world of player freedom and immersion that we now take for granted. If you ever spent an entire evening trekking to some distant Dwemer ruin just because a rumor in town mentioned it, then you know how Morrowind defined what an open-world experience could be in the 2000s. Who would have thought that handling virtual daily chores could be so addictive? The Sims turned mundane life into a gaming sandbox, letting us build dream homes, pursue careers, or just set the kitchen on fire making toast. It was hilarious and strangely heartfelt, from making our Sims fall in love to watching them do the pee-pee dance when the bathroom was occupied. Remember removing the pool ladder just to see what happens? We cackled as our Sims swam endlessly. Sorry, little guy. And hearing them babble in their goofy Simlish language only made it more charming. This game wasn't about winning, it was about creating stories. Whether that meant a perfect suburban life or a chaotic household with a dozen confused neighbors. Beyond the goofy fun, The Sims was a cultural phenomenon that pulled everyone in. It invited people who never touched a game before to give it a try. Your mom, your kid's sister, even your grumpy uncle could enjoy managing these tiny lives. It became one of the best-selling PC games ever, and spawned countless expansions. Who else bought Hot Date just to see your Sims awkwardly flirt? It also gave players creative freedom to design homes and communities, basically launching the idea of user-generated content in mainstream gaming. The legacy lives on in today's life sims and customization options in games. And let's be honest, it taught us an important life lesson. Always take care of your bladder before a job interview, or you might pee your pants at the worst moment, virtual or not. The year 2000 wasn't just about slaying monsters and managing virtual lives. It was also about grabbing a skateboard or a controller and shredding through insane trick combos. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 captured the rebellious spirit of the skate scene and made it accessible to all of us. Remember spending hours trying to nail that perfect 900-degree spin or chaining kickflips into a grind across the entire skate park? With levels like The Hangar and School 2 and a soundtrack packed with punk and hip-hop bangers, this game had us bobbing our heads while we pulled off impossible stunts. Even if you'd never stepped on a real skateboard, THPS 2 made you feel like a pro, without the scraped knees. Culturally, this game was huge. It introduced a generation of gamers to skateboarding culture and music. Hands up if you discovered a favorite band from its soundtrack. The intuitive controls and addictive score-chasing gameplay spawned a wave of extreme sports games throughout the early 2000s. We all became completionists, hunting down secret tapes and spelling SKATE in each level. And let's not forget unlocking crazy guest characters. Spider-Man on a skateboard, anyone. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 defined an era when gaming was as much about style and self-expression as it was about high scores. Its legacy lives on in the recent remasters and in the hearts of everyone who still hears Superman by Goldfinger and immediately thinks of landing huge combos in the warehouse. Radical, dude. Who would have guessed that one of the defining games of the 2000s would come bundled free with a console? Wii Sports wasn't about fancy graphics or deep storytelling. It was about pure, simple fun that literally anyone could pick up and play. When the Nintendo Wii hit living rooms in 2006, suddenly everyone from little kids to grandparents was enthusiastically swinging that Wii remote. Bowling strikes, thwacking home runs, and smashing tennis balls in Wii Sports became a cross-generational pastime. Remember the first time you realized you didn't actually have to let go of the controller to roll the bowling ball, hopefully before it flew into the TV? Or the intense boxing matches that left us panting and sweating as if we'd done a real workout? Wii Sports did something revolutionary. It made gaming a social, physical activity and invited folks who'd never touched a controller before to join in. It played a huge role in the Wii's wild success. Over 100 million consoles sold by showcasing the magic of motion controls. Holiday gatherings turned into impromptu bowling tournaments. Retirement homes even used Wii Sports for light exercise and therapy. The cultural reach was unbelievable. And while hardcore gamers might not have sunk hundreds of hours into it solo, almost everyone has a fond memory of a Wii Sports moment shared with others. Its legacy lives on in today's motion-controlled and VR games, and in the fact that we're all a little more careful now to attach that wrist strap. Wii Sports proved that sometimes the simplest, silliest games are the ones that get everybody smiling and playing together. In late 2004, a portal opened to the world of Azeroth, and millions of us willingly jumped in, never to see sunlight again. Okay, slight exaggeration, maybe. World of Warcraft wasn't the first MMORPG, but it absolutely brought the genre to the masses. Suddenly, it wasn't strange to hear your coworker or classmate talking about their night elf druid or orc warrior. Remember the first time you stepped into a capital city like Stormwind or Orgrimmar and saw dozens of real players bustling about, showing off fancy armor and mounts? It felt like a living, breathing world. We formed guilds, made in-game friends and rivals, and spent countless hours questing, raiding, and yes, occasionally running for our lives from Murloc. WoW's impact on culture and the gaming industry is legendary. It became a social phenomenon. Even people who didn't play knew what WoW was. The game introduced concepts like raids, aggro, and DKP, dragon kill points, into our everyday vocabulary. It also gave us unforgettable moments. The infamous Leroy Jenkins charge, still hilarious, and a South Park episode parodying our virtual addictions. Other MMOs tried to copy its formula, but none quite dethroned the king. WoW proved that a subscription-based online game could dominate entertainment, keeping players hooked for years on end. It set standards for quest design, world building, and post-launch support with its many expansions. If you ever found yourself bleary-eyed at 3 a.m. farming materials for that epic craftable sword, or felt the thrill of downing a raid boss with 39 other people cheering over voice chat, then you know why World of Warcraft defined online gaming in the 2000s. The late 2000s had gamers parkouring across rooftops in Renaissance Italy, all thanks to Assassin's Creed 2. This sequel took the solid foundation of the first AC and absolutely ran with it, and jumped and climbed. We met Ezio Auditore da Firenze, charming, cocky, and out for vengeance after a family betrayal. And through him we experienced a stunning open-world rendition of 15th century Florence, Venice, and beyond. Remember the thrill of that very first leap of faith off a church tower? Diving into a haystack below, or silently stalking targets through the Carnival of Venice, blending with crowds of masked revelers? Assassin's Creed 2 perfected the blend of historical tourism and stealthy action. One minute you're chatting up Leonardo da Vinci and testing out his nifty flying machine. The next, you're hopping across rooftops to tail a corrupt noble, all to the backdrop of Jesper Kid's beautiful soundtrack. It wasn't just the cool parkour and hidden blade assassinations that made ACII shine. It was how alive the world felt and how much there was to do. Ubisoft crammed these cities with side missions, treasures, tombs to explore, and yes, a gazillion collectible feathers. We may or may not have pulled up a guide for those. The game's success launched Assassin's Creed into an annual franchise and influenced open-world design for years to come. Climbing tall landmarks to reveal the map? Thank AC2 for making that a staple. The notion of an overarching modern-day storyline in a historical game? AC did that too. But above all, Ezio's personal journey from a carefree young man to master assassin kept us invested from start to finish. Assassin's Creed 2 defined the 2000s by showing how a video game could let us time travel and live out our swashbuckling, history-hopping fantasies all in one glorious, cohesive experience. Is a man not entitled to the sweat of his brow? This lofty question greets you in BioShock's haunting intro, right before you descend into the underwater city of Rapture. In 2007, BioShock showed the world that first-person shooters could be more than just action. They could be art. We weren't just blasting splicers, we were unraveling a thought-provoking tale about free will, utopian dreams gone wrong, and the nature of control. The atmosphere was incredible. Art Deco architecture, neon lights flickering underwater, and the distant whale songs giving this fallen city an eerie serenity. Remember the first time a Big Daddy lumbered into view with its massive drill arm and an ominous groan protecting a little sister? Facing those hulking guardians was equal parts terrifying and thrilling, often with your heart pounding as you strategized how to take one down. What truly elevates BioShock is its narrative punch. The mid-game twist, that twist, where we realized we'd been manipulated all along by the phrase, "Would you kindly?" left players speechless. In that moment, BioShock proved games could subvert expectations and deliver storytelling on par with the best films and novels. It influenced countless games after it to be bolder with narrative and moral choices. The game also revived interest in immersive sim-style gameplay, giving players freedom in how to tackle combat, set a trap, go in guns blazing, and whether to save or harvest the Little Sisters. To this day, Rapture remains one of the most memorable settings in gaming, and BioShock stands as a testament that the 2000s were the decade when games truly started making us think, even as they entertained us. In 2007, Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare, dropped us onto a contemporary battlefield and changed the shooter landscape overnight. Up until then, big FPS games were mostly historic battlefields, but Modern Warfare said, how about we bring it to the 21st century? The result was an intense campaign that felt like a blockbuster action movie, complete with jaw-dropping moments. Remember that mission where you're in the AC-130 gunship, raining down infrared destruction from on high? Or the gut punch level where a nuclear blast wipes out your character, and you're crawling through the fallout until everything fades to white? It wasn't just the campaign though. The multiplayer redefined online addiction for many of us. Suddenly, we were obsessed with prestiging, resetting our progress for a shiny badge, unlocking new weapons, and getting that 7-kill streak for a helicopter support. Every match was a rush, from the first UAV at 3 kills to the glorious chaos of calling in an airstrike on a heavily contested zone. Modern Warfare's influence is still felt in gaming today. It popularized the progression system in multiplayer shooters, experience points, perks, custom loadouts, the whole grindy carrot on a stick that keeps us saying just one more match. It also shifted the entire genre's setting. After COD 4, modern and later futuristic military shooters became the norm. The success of this game turned Call of Duty into the juggernaut franchise we know now, with yearly releases and a massive player base. But beyond the sales and stats, for many of us it comes down to the memories, late-night matches with friends, clutching victory in search and destroy with seconds to spare, or the sheer panic of hearing enemy AC-130 above over the crackle of our headsets. Call of Duty 4 wasn't just a game we played, it was a defining part of our 2000s gaming identity. Counter-Strike wasn't about flashy graphics or epic storylines. It was raw, competitive adrenaline distilled into a multiplayer game. Starting as a humble Half-Life mod and evolving into a standalone release by 2000, this game took PC cafes and dorm rooms by storm. Terrorists versus counter-terrorists, 1 life per round, no respawn. The tension of clutching a 1 versus 4 situation onto dust, 2 with your whole team watching, was something else. Remember the sound of the timer beeping faster as the bomb was about to go off, and your heart pounding as you frantically tried to defuse? Or the satisfaction of finally landing that impossible AWP sniper shot through a tiny crack? Counter-Strike turned us into team strategists and sharpshooters 1 round at a time. The impact on gaming was massive. Counter-Strike essentially birthed the modern esports scene, proving that a mod with solid gameplay could evolve into a global competitive phenomenon. It taught us the value of teamwork and map knowledge. Rush B, anyone? Even the lingo stuck with us. Terms like eco-round, campers, and GG became part of gamer vocabulary. LAN parties often revolved around CS matches well before online play was ubiquitous. Decades later, the legacy lives on through CSGO and beyond, with millions still hooked on that same bomb-planting, hostage-rescuing formula. Simply put, Counter-Strike defined competitive FPS in the 2000s, and it taught many of us that practice, patience, and a little bit of strategy, plus maybe a flashbang, could turn the tide of battle. Few games made us feel as powerful or as angry as God of War did when it burst onto the PlayStation 2 in 2005. From the very start, Kratos, the Ghost of Sparta, was on a rampage, and we were happy to go along for the ride. Armed with the blades of chaos seared into his arms, we We ripped through hordes of mythological creatures with brutal, balletic combat. Remember the first boss fight against the Hydra on that storm-tossed ship? It was an epic, multi-headed introduction to a game that only got more intense from there. God of War blended combo-based hack-and-slash action with jaw-dropping set pieces, like climbing a giant titan or tearing the head off a gorgon, leaving us equal parts awed and maybe a little shocked in a good way. It wasn't just mindless action, though. God of War pulled us in with a tragic tale of a man haunted by his past, seeking bloody vengeance against the gods themselves. The game's use of QuickTime events for those cinematic finishers set a trend in action game. How many buttons did we mash to pry open a Minotaur's jaws? A lot. It also solidified Sony's reputation for crafting blockbuster single-player experiences. The franchise became a cornerstone of PlayStation gaming, spawning sequels and a 2018 revival that shows Kratos' staying power. Whenever we recall the 2000s in gaming, God of War stands out for proving that games could be as cinematic and exhilarating as any Hollywood action film. And let's be honest, sometimes we all needed to unleash our inner Spartan rage after a long day. In 2001, gaming took a giant leap into an open-world 3D playground with Grand Theft Auto 3. For the first time, we weren't just following a path. We were unleashed in a living city, free to drive anywhere, cause mayhem, or actually do missions when we felt like it. Remember the thrill of stealing a sports car and just cruising around Liberty City listening to the game's hilarious radio stations? Chatterbox FM anyone. It was the kind of game where you'd start out intending to complete a story mission, then an hour later realize you'd gotten completely sidetracked by a spontaneous police chase after accidentally bumping a cop car. Oops. GTA 3's mix of freedom and chaos was unlike anything before it. The cultural and industry impact was huge, and a bit controversial. This game sparked countless news stories about violence in gaming, but it also pushed the medium forward, showing how a mature, open-world experience could captivate millions. Every sandbox game that followed owes a nod to GTA 3's formula: the interactive city, the non-linear missions, the radio chatter that made the world feel real. It birthed an entire genre of go anywhere, do anything games, including its own sequels Vice City and San Andreas, which only got bigger and more ambitious. And let's not forget the cheats: spawning tanks and getting infinite ammo for when you just wanted to watch the city burn. Grand Theft Auto 3 defined the 2000s by proving games could be massive, immersive playgrounds, and that sometimes breaking the rules was the most fun of all. In 2005, Guitar Hero turned everyone, and I mean everyone, into a wannabe rock star. All it took was a quirky plastic guitar controller and some killer tracks. Suddenly, living rooms were concert stages, and we were jamming out to rock anthems, nailing riffs and power chords with the tap of colored buttons. Remember the first time you hit all the notes in Iron Man, or absolutely crushed Smoke on the Water? It felt like you'd just played to a sold-out stadium, even if you were really just in your socks in front of the TV. And oh boy, the parties this game fueled. It didn't matter if you actually played guitar or not. Guitar Hero made everyone feel like a music legend for a few glorious minutes. The game's cultural impact was massive. It popularized an entire genre of rhythm games in the West, paving the way for Rock Band and others. Suddenly, video games became the life of the party, bridging the gap between gamers and non-gamers. Because who could resist jumping in to belt out a tune or shred a solo? It also introduced a lot of us to music we might have never heard otherwise, sparking newfound appreciation for classic rock, metal, and punk tracks. The Guitar Hero craze eventually faded. Many of us have a dusty plastic guitar or two in the closet now, but its legacy remains. It proved that games could bring people together in shared love of music and friendly competition. And if you ever attempted the infamous Through the Fire and Flames on Expert, you know firsthand just how wild and woolly a game about playing pretend guitar could be. When Half-Life 2 landed in 2004, it felt like gaming had leapt into the future. This was a shooter with brains and heart, and a really nifty physics gun. Stepping into the shoes of silent scientist Gordon Freeman again, we found ourselves in City 17, a dystopian realm ruled by the Combine. The game wasted no time showing off its revolutionary physics engine: puzzles with seesaws and weighted crates, enemies that crumpled ragdoll style when blasted, and environments that could be manipulated realistically. And then we got the gravity gun. And oh boy, suddenly everything in the world became a toy and a weapon. Remember gleefully launching saw blades at hapless zombies in Ravenholm? We don't go to Ravenholm, they warned, but we sure did, armed with our new favorite gadget. Beyond the cool tech and gameplay, Half-Life 2 raised the bar for storytelling in FPS games. It never yanked control away for cutscenes. Instead, we experienced every plot twist firsthand, with characters like Alex Vance feeling like real companions. It was also one of the first games tied to a digital distribution platform, Steam, which at the time was new and a bit controversial, but would eventually revolutionize how we buy and play games. The legacy of Half-Life 2 is seen in everything from physics puzzles in other games to the cinematic, narrative-driven shooters that followed. It's a testament to how the 2000s 2000s saw games grow up, delivering blockbuster action and emotional depth in one package. And we're all still waiting for that next chapter. But at least we have our gravity gun memories to tide us over. The early 2000s brought console gamers their very own FPS phenomenon with Halo, Combat Evolved. This wasn't just another shooter, it was the game that made Xbox a household name. From the moment Master Chief first set foot on that mysterious Halo ring world, we knew we were in for something special. The controls were silky smooth, finally a shooter that felt right on a gamepad, and the campaign was epic sci-fi at its best. Remember battling the Covenant in the beach assault on the silent cartographer level? Or the sheer terror of encountering the Flood for the first time? And who could forget the desperate Warthog escape in the finale, racing against the clock as everything exploded around you? The real magic for many of us was the multiplayer. Halo made it cool to lug your Xbox to a friend's house for LAN parties, linking up 4 consoles for 16-player mayhem. Blood Gulch captured the flag matches at 3 a.m., energy sword duels, lots of smack talk and laughter. That was the Halo experience. It revolutionized console multiplayer and paved the way for online play on consoles. Hello, Halo 2 on Xbox Live. The game's influence is everywhere. Regenerating shields, 2 weapon limits, and even the modern gamepad FPS layout trace back to Halo. It defined an era of couch gaming with friends and proved that console FPS could stand toe-to-toe with PC. Plus, let's be honest, every time we hear that iconic Gregorian chant of the Halo theme, we still get goosebumps. This was the game that truly evolved combat on consoles in the 2000s. From a fan-made Warcraft 3 mod to a global phenomenon, the rise of League of Legends at the tail end of the 2000s is stuff of gaming legend. Released in 2009 as a standalone take on the a defense of the ancients concept, LoL was easy to pick up but difficult to master. A perfect recipe for just one more game. It's the title that had us saying that at 9 p.m. and suddenly seeing the sunrise. Remember the first time you pulled off a pentakill with your favorite champion? Your heart pounding as the announcer shouted, "Pentakill," or the sting of trash talk in all chat when you got outplayed, which bizarrely only made you want to improve more. Love it or hate it, and every LoL player has felt both. The game's competitive hook was undeniable. League of Legends didn't just give us countless late-night victories and defeats. It reshaped the industry. It popularized the free-to-play model done right, showing that a game could thrive by selling character skins and cosmetics instead of charging an upfront fee, a model countless games emulate now. And esports? League of Legends turned competitive gaming into a spectacle, filling arenas with fans and making championship players into stars. The seeds planted in 2009 grew into a massive esports scene in the 2000s, with League of Legends leading the charge. Its influence also sparked a surge of MOBA games trying to capture that magic. With an ever-expanding roster of champions and a community as passionate as it is vocal, LoL's legacy is still unfolding. But one thing's clear, when you look back at the 2000s, League of Legends stands as the game that kicked off a new competitive era. If you hopped on Summoner's Rift back in the day, you were at the ground floor of something huge, and you probably learned to ward your bushes and fear the name Teemo very quickly. As the 2000s came to a close, a little indie game about breaking and placing blocks quietly laid the foundation, quite literally, for a new era of gaming. Minecraft in its 2009 alpha form didn't have a grand storyline or flashy graphics. It looked like digital Lego, but it captured our imagination like nothing else. Dropped into a limitless, blocky world with no instructions, you were free to do whatever you wanted. Chop some wood, build a dirt hut, dig for diamonds, or construct a crazy roller coaster. The choice was yours. Remember your first night? The sun setting, eerie moans of zombies echoing, and you frantically throwing together a shabby little shelter, complete with a rickety door you prayed would hold? And who can forget the first time a creeper snuck up with that ominous sss, then boom, a hole blasted in the ground and in your nerves. Minecraft proved that sometimes the simplest ideas are the most powerful. It sparked a creative building craze that swept the globe, from kids in school computer labs to adults unwinding after work by tending virtual farm. By the early 2010s, it was a full-blown cultural phenomenon, with YouTube overflowing with Minecraft Let's Plays and mind-blowing player creations. It even became a social experience, as friends joined servers to craft huge cities and go on adventures together. The game's influence is vast. It paved the way for survival, crafting, and sandbox elements in countless titles, and showed that players will create amazing things if you give them the tools. This humble, blocky sandbox managed to break the mold, and we're all still happily playing in its infinite playground to this day. Cake, portals, and a psychotic AI. Who knew that Combo would create one of the most beloved games of the decade? Portal arrived in 2007, tucked inside the Orange Box collection, and quickly became a fan favorite. At first glance, it seemed like a simple puzzle game. You have a gun that makes 2 linked portals, and you solve test chambers by flinging yourself and objects around. Cool concept, right? But then Portal revealed its secret weapon, a wicked sense of humor and a hidden story. GLaDOS, the sarcastic AI guiding or taunting you, started stealing the show with her passive-aggressive quips. Remember the delight of figuring out a tricky puzzle only to be greeted with GLaDOS's deadpan praise? Well done. Here come the test results. You are a horrible person. That's what it says. We weren't even testing for that? Savage. And of course, who could forget the moment you escaped the testing track and venture behind the scene, discovering scribbles about cake and lies? By the time we faced off against GLaDOS in a battle of wits and rockets, and heard that jubilant end credit song Still Alive, Portal had carved out its place in gaming history. It proved that games don't need to be long or photorealistic to make a huge impact. The phrase "the cake is a lie" became an instant meme, and the gamer's inside joke of the late 2000s. Portal inspired a wave of physics-based puzzle games and showed that narrative and puzzles could go hand in hand to create something truly special. It's not often that a game leaves you laughing, humming a tune, and craving more brain-bending puzzles all at once. But Portal managed to do just that with style. Detrosity imbecile, if those words ring a bell, or send a shiver down your spine, you were probably knee-deep in Resident Evil 4's intense opening village scene. In 2005, Capcom reinvented its survival horror franchise by trading in the clunky fixed cameras for an over-the-shoulder perspective that changed action games forever. As Leon S. Kennedy, we went from defending a creepy cabin against hordes of parasite-infected Ganados to battling towering bosses like the lake-dwelling Del Lago. Remember the first time the chainsaw-wielding maniac Dr. Salvador caught you off guard? One swing and wham! Leon's head was off, and then our jaws were on the floor. It was scary, sure, but it was also unbelievably fun. What made RE4 so special, besides Leon's one-liners and that mysterious merchant rasping, "What are you buying?" was how it blended horror with high-octane action. It set the template for third-person shooters and future Resident Evil titles alike. The precision aiming, the strategic shooting, stunning a Ganado with a shot to the knee, then roundhouse kicking a crowd, the cinematic set pieces, countless games took inspiration from it. Hello, Gears of War and Dead Space. Players and critics were blown away. Many still call it one of the best games of all time. Its legacy lives on through a modern remake and the way it influenced game design, from the tighter camera to the blend of action and scares. And let's not forget the pure adrenaline of that Krauser knife fight QTE. We mashed those buttons like our lives depended on it, because Leon sure did. Resident Evil 4 proved that a series could completely reinvent itself and end up defining a genre for years to come. By 2007, Mario had already taken us through the Mushroom Kingdom, across tropical isles, and even into the skies. But Super Mario Galaxy launched the iconic plumber into outer space and somehow made platforming feel brand new again. This wee gem defied gravity, literally. Planets of all shapes and sizes became our playground, each with its own gravitational pull. One moment you're running around a tiny globe upside down. The next, you're launching between planetoids in a dazzling, starry burst. Remember the pure joy of flying with the Red Star power-up, or bouncing around as Spring Mario, clumsy but fun, or the serene beauty of the Comet Observatory Hub with its gentle melody. And who could forget the first time Galaxy flipped our perspective, sending us looping around a mini-planet while Goombas curiously fell down into space. Mind blown. Super Mario Galaxy wasn't just another sequel. It felt like a celebration of everything we love about Mario games with a cosmic twist. It was accessible enough for kids, yet challenging enough for veterans aiming to grab every last star. The orchestrated soundtrack was simply gorgeous, accompanying moments of wonder and triumph that still give us goosebumps. Gusty Garden Galaxy's theme is an all-timer. Critics and players showered it with praise, often hailing it as one of the greatest games of all time. Its legacy is evident in how later platformers, even Mario's own subsequent adventures, tried to recapture that same sense of imaginative joy. In an era where gritty shooters were on the rise, Super Mario Galaxy stood out as a burst of color and creativity. It reminded us that gaming can make you feel like a wide-eyed kid again, marveling at the possibilities, and that will always be a defining feeling of the 2000s. In the early 2000s, many of us spent endless nights clicking away at hordes of demons in Diablo 2. This action RPG had a simple formula that proved irresistible. Slay monsters, grab loot, level up, and repeat until sunrise. Remember the rush of seeing a unique gold or set green item drop after grinding through the minions of hell? Diablo 2 nailed that dopamine hit. Whether you rolled a whirlwind barbarian or a spell-slinging sorceress, every class felt powerful and fun. And who could forget Deckard Cain's warm, gravelly voice advising us to stay a while and listen. We'd venture into the next act's town, eager to hear his lore and get our items identified. Beyond the addictive gameplay loop, Diablo 2 had a huge impact on the industry. It set the gold standard for loot-driven dungeon crawlers, a blueprint games still follow today. Online on battle.net, it was one of the first titles where you could team up with friends or strangers to tackle nightmare and hell difficulties, trading items and bragging about that perfect drop. The game's influence is everywhere, from World of Warcraft's loot lust to modern action RPGs like Path of Exile, all owe a debt to Diablo 2's formula. It also proved that PC gaming was alive and kicking in the new millennium, fueling our obsession with better gear and just one more run. If you ever stayed up way too late chasing Ball through the World's Don't Keep, you know exactly how Diablo 2 defined gaming in the 2000s. And there you have it, 20 games that didn't just define a decade, they defined us. The 2000s weren't just about new consoles or better graphics. They were about moments. Moments when a game made you laugh, scream, throw your controller across the room, or maybe even cry a little when a character said goodbye. These weren't just games, they were memories. LAN parties fueled by Mountain Dew, long nights chasing XP, awkward couch co-op with your sibling who definitely wasn't pulling their weight. Or that one friend who always picked Oddjob and GoldenEye and acted like it wasn't cheating. Yeah, we remember. But now I've got to ask, which game from the 2000s still lives rent-free in your head? Was it that one boss you finally beat after 47 tries? That ridiculous cheat code you memorized? Or maybe just the first time a game made you feel something real? Drop your favorite 2000s memory in the comments. I want to hear your stories too. And hey, if this trip down memory lane gave you even half the nostalgia rush it gave me, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more gaming time warps, and maybe even share this with your old LAN party crew. You know, the ones who never brought snacks but always brought the fun. Until next time, keep your save files backed up, your controller charged, and your heart open to that magical era when gaming truly grew up. Catch you in the next one, Legends.